Do you wear a mask when you go out in public? Do you wear a mask when you go to the store? We're going to talk about the COVID mask on this episode of the Driving with Rob podcast. Wearing a mask in public. A lot of governors have made it mandatory now. And there's a little bit of confusion about when you have to wear a mask, when you don't have to wear a mask, that kind of thing. But according to the governor of North Carolina, anytime you cannot maintain a social distance of 6 feet or more in public, you must be wearing a mask. It doesn't say you have to wear a mask all the time. If you cannot social distance, you have to wear a mask. Well, the mask that I have started using a lot, it was actually part of a pirate costume from years ago. It's a black triangular piece of cloth, and I can fold it over so that I've got a double layer and just put it around my head and tie it, because I don't like the ones that hook around your ears, because I don't have really big ears anyway. You know, some people's ears look like a taxi cab with the doors open, but I don't have big ears anyway, and the mask really doesn't stay hooked over my ears that well. Plus, I wear glasses, so I've got the arms of the glasses that are already going over my ears, and I just don't do well with the kind of mask that hooks over your ears. So I have one that ties in the back of my head. And like I say, because it was part of a pirate costume, it's black. So when I'm wearing this mask, I look like I'm about to go hold up the noon stage. And I wore this thing to the bank the other day. And what they're doing at my bank, they let you come in the bank, but you have to be wearing a mask. And they've got this little staging area. There's 2 rows of glass doors, and they've got this little desk in between those. And they're just making sure that they don't have too many people inside the bank at a time, and making sure that everybody's wearing a mask. If you don't have a mask, they'll provide one for you. And I told the lady at the bank, I said, "You see this mask? I'm pretty sure Jesse James wore a mask just like this when he went to the bank." And the lady at the bank just laughed and said, "Yeah, he probably did." I said, "I'm pretty sure he did. And if I had come in wearing a mask like this 6-8 months ago, you would have called the police on me. You would have hit your silent alarm as soon as I walked in the door wearing a mask like this. But now it's a required mask." And I understand the thing with the mask. The mask basically does a couple of things for you. Number one, keeps you from breathing in other people's germs. And it protects other people from breathing in your germs. That's what the mask does for you. But let's talk about what the mask does to you. Because take the mask, wearing a mask, out of the COVID-19 context. Everybody's familiar with medical masks, surgical masks. If you're dealing with hazardous materials, firefighters going into a place where there is the possibility of noxious fumes or depleted oxygen, they would wear a mask. But these are very task-specific applications. Surgeons don't walk down the hallways of the hospital wearing a mask. Firefighters don't wear a mask when they're sitting around the firehouse waiting for a call. People that deal with hazardous materials only wear a mask while they're dealing with the hazardous materials. They don't walk around all day with a mask. Now we're supposed to walk around with masks on all day. Well, a mask has always been protective gear, PPE, personal protective equipment. But you take the mask out of all that context, why do you wear a mask? When you want to hide your identity. That's the reason bank robbers wear them, muggers, the KKK. In general, you wear a mask to hide your identity, so that people can't see your face, so that people don't know who you are. So when you're walking around in public wearing a mask, I think it does harm to our culture and our society, because now you can't recognize each other. I was in the store the other day. I talked to a guy for 5 minutes before I realized who he was. Because he has a very similar size and a very similar voice to another good friend of mine. And it took me a good 5 minutes of talking to this guy before I realized who I was talking to. And it may just be a southern thing. You don't really hear about it so much up north. But in the South, you would greet strangers in public. Hey, how you doing? Good morning. It's good to see you. One of the effects that it has on our society and has on our culture now, we can't recognize people because they're wearing a mask. For Halloween and for costume parties, you wear a mask because you're trying to look like somebody else. But one of the things that wearing a mask does to you is it takes away your identity. It takes away your individuality. So now you really are social distancing from people you know, people you're friends with. And that mask becomes more than protection. That mask becomes separation between you and the other people on this planet. Because now I don't know who you are. I don't recognize you anymore. You can even go so far as to say that that mask has dehumanized you. Now you're not an individual anymore, you're a person in a mask. And I got to thinking about that aspect of the mask as a detrimental thing about wearing a mask. And in this current climate, there are some people, certain people, who, out of fear, out of anger, out of frustration, now feel obligated to verbally or physically attack other people who aren't wearing a mask. In general, the people who don't wear a mask in public don't care if you do or not. But there are a lot of people who are wearing the masks, who are very adamant in their opinion that you should be wearing one too. And they become verbally, sometimes physically abusive to people they find not wearing masks. And like I say, it may be, their fear takes over. But certainly, their common sense leaves them and lets them believe that it's okay to attack other people because they're not wearing a mask. But see, it goes even deeper than that. They can attack you because you're not an individual. I'm not talking to Rob anymore. I'm talking to a guy in a mask. And it dehumanizes you to the point that they feel perfectly obligated. They feel perfectly justified in attacking you because you're not a person. You're not an individual. You're not a human being. You're a thing in a mask. You went from being a who to a what. Because if you're not an individual anymore, now you're no longer a who, you're a what. And the danger in becoming a what really hit home with me the other day when I was watching the Ken Burns special on Vietnam. And they interviewed lots of Vietnam vets on this documentary. And one of the Vietnam vets said, I'm a Christian, I'm 19 years old, I'm scared to death, have never been in a jungle in my life until they sent me to Vietnam. The last thing I wanted to do was kill somebody. I don't know these people, they didn't do anything to me. I'm under orders to kill them. But I don't want to kill another person. How am I ever going to justify that and make it okay to kill another person? And he said, one of his commanding officers said, here's how. You're not killing people. You're killing gooks. And this guy made a statement I'll never forget. He said, I never killed a single person in Vietnam. I killed gooks. I can kill a gook. He said, I killed hundreds of gooks, but I never killed a person the whole time I was in Vietnam. Because once you dehumanize a person, once they're no longer a person, once they're a what instead of a who, now you can kill them. So I understand the need for masks. I understand why it's important to wear masks. But there is a very real danger in turning human beings into things instead of people. And that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you downloading. Click on like, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks again. Bye now.